We've been wondering about inflatable stand-up paddle boards. See if they're a good thing to, to have on a sailboat. They come with a backpack, an aluminum paddle that's in 3 pieces, high pressure pump, a paddle leash, fin, and a patch kit, and another little bag that the pump and some stuff goes in, as well as the paddleboard. The first thing I noticed was that it was a little bit lighter than I thought it was going to be. Our 2-person inflatable kayak by Advanced Elements was just a bear to carry around. Next, we'll pump them up, see how easy or difficult that is, and then we'll use them. And we'll also be checking to see if they're durable, and where we're going to store them and all that. So if you've ever thought about getting inflatable stand-up paddle boards to have on board your boat, you'll know if it's a good idea. Okay, so we messed around with the gear a little bit, and I put it in the backpack. I don't know that we'd ever use it to backpack around in like this. It's not too heavy, and it's not too cumbersome. We got the boards rolled out onto the deck here. Now we're going to see how long it takes to pump it all the way up and how difficult it is. Oh, it didn't come with instructions. I'm sure they're online somewhere, but it looks pretty self-explanatory, and it says to pump it up to 12 to 16 psi on the nozzle. So, ready the stopwatch, Lindy?
Ready.
So it took me 6 minutes and 20 seconds to get it pumped up to 15 psi, and it was pretty hard, but not too bad. So I'll help Lindy get hers on pumped up, and then we'll test them out. All right, both boards are inflated now. Easy enough to pick up. And we'll put our paddle together. I should mention that the reason we chose Xterra over other well-reviewed paddle boards such as Tower was simply price. The deal that we got made them cheaper, and the specs were all the same. Now it was time to test the boards out in the water. I climbed in over the railings at midship, but we later found that it's much easier to climb on from the stern ladder. They even come with a GoPro mount on them. I stood up, gained my balance, and prepared to push off for the first time. We've both maybe spent an hour or two total in our lives on paddleboards, and mostly the rigid ones, not the inflatables. So we're basically novices. We were anxious to see how easy or difficult it would be to balance on the boards on the water. I noticed right away that the wind has a major effect on you compared to kayaking. The wind turned me and pushed me downwind, and it was pretty tough to get turned back upwind again. I learned that it's much easier to stay pointed directly into the wind if wanting to go that direction. I passed on my early findings to Lindy, she jumped on her board, and off we went. Paddling into the wind was maybe a little tougher than kayaking, but not too bad, and we got a good workout. As far as comparisons to other paddle boards, we don't have very much experience. I can say that as inflatables, these are very rigid, and I felt no flexing. Alright, so we went upwind and into the current for a while. We got used to the paddle boards, and now it's a lot easier than it was when we first started, and now we're just chilling out. Gonna kind of drift and paddle back to the boat. These are nice. They seem to work great. And as far as the shape of the board compared to other inflatables or rigids, I couldn't see anything positive or negative about it during use. The board moves forward as expected while paddling and tracks well. A couple of days later, with a little more experience under our belt, we went back out paddling for a second time. This day we paddled even further, and I decided to check out the close quarter maneuvering in the mangroves. I dropped down to my knees, ducked into the mangroves, then stood back up and turned the board around. No problem. Once you figure out your balance on these paddleboards, it's really not too tough. I do feel like from the few times I've been on rigid boards that they are more stable. But it doesn't seem like that big of a difference, and of course, we don't have room for rigid boards on holiday. At the time of my speaking, we've probably spent about 10 hours on the boards now. I've only fallen in once, and Lindy hasn't fallen in at all. One nice difference over kayaking is as long as you don't fall in, the only thing that gets wet is your feet. Whereas kayaking, you always end up with a wet butt, hands, arms, and shoulders. It was another fun day on the water as we made it back to Holiday. As far as storage goes, these boards are light, and it's pretty easy to just hoist them over the rails. Since inflating them the first time, we haven't been totally deflating them in between uses. These shouldn't be stored fully inflated in the sun for days at a time, or they will warp and become damaged beyond repair. So I've been depressing the valve for about 5 seconds to let out some pressure. And then it takes me a couple of minutes to pump them back up before our next use. When we're underway, we'll be deflating them and storing them down below in the quarter berth. On our third trip out, we decided to test out the paddle boards going through the cool mangrove tunnels around Boot Key Harbor in Marathon. The paddle boards did great, and we even tried out paddling in kneeling and sitting positions, which worked as well. I'll leave you with some cool shots of the neat areas you can access while paddleboarding. We really like these Xterra paddle boards and are happy with our purchase so far. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments and we'll try to respond. Thanks for watching this review on Fun on Holiday, and make sure to check out our other videos of us cruising on our Tartan 37 Holiday.